Okay, and welcome back, COSA 2 folks. Professor Almeida here with your Access Inventory Project walkthrough. And in all honesty, it's probably going to take you a lot longer to watch this video than it is to actually do the project. But this is essentially your crash course into Microsoft Access, and I want to make sure you understand what we are doing here. So if you need to use that pause button, please do so. But more importantly, before you get into this project, take a moment to go through the sim book. Okay, take several moments actually. It really shouldn't take you long to do the sim book. This will provide some background as to what we're doing here, and then make sure that you have the handout ready to go. If you need to print this out to have it in front of you, please do that. That way you have a checklist and you're not missing something. Okay, you want to make sure that you're following this handout completely. And again, this is a very short exercise and it shouldn't take you very long. If anything, this lecture will run a lot longer because I got to explain everything to you. Okay, so remember you do have that pause button available. All right, so here's the scenario, folks. You've been hired to create an inventory database for Acme Computer Company. It's a small computer hardware store. This database is going to contain at least 10 records, and the owners have specific fields they want you to include. And we're going to use Microsoft Access here. And you're probably thinking to yourself, okay, what is this Microsoft Access and why should I care? Let's say you are the owner of a book publishing company, right? You're working with different college campuses. You're selling your products to them, kind of like what McGraw-Hill, Cengage, and Pearson do. You have book reps that go out to those college campuses to sell your product, right? This is what actually goes on, right? I'll have book reps knocking on my door, asking about my classes and whether I'm interested in switching to their materials. Okay, so this happens all the time, right? And let's say that you have a spreadsheet that contains a list of all of your customers, that is these college campuses, and maybe you have some data including how much they've purchased from you, how much they owe you, maybe returns, things like that. All of that is in a spreadsheet, right? And then you have your book reps. Perhaps you have a Word document that has a list of your book reps, including data such as their hiring dates, their salaries, how to get a hold of them, and so forth. What if you could combine this data into one place, and not only that, be able to ask questions about that data? And even better, if someone has to create new book rep records or new customer records, that they have an easy form to do it with, and maybe if somebody has questions that you can quickly generate reports. Well, that's what Microsoft Access does, okay? You're getting a crash course in Access. If you want to learn more, there's a whole course on Access. It's COSA 25, so there's my plug right there. Let's get on with this. Okay. So using Access, you're going to design the table structure, you're going to enter data, create two reports, and then a query. So right away, there's a couple of terms we need to get out of the way here. Access contains what are called objects, okay? And as a matter of fact, when you work with Microsoft Access, you're not really saving the database as you would with a Word document or an Excel workbook or a PowerPoint presentation. With Access, you're saving individual objects. And there's four types of objects in Access. You have tables, which are really the heart of your database. So using my book publishing example, maybe you have a table for your book reps and you have a table for your customers, okay? And once you have those tables and then you have those tables populated with records, you can then start to ask questions about that data. This is where queries come in, okay? So you can run different kinds of queries, and then you can generate reports based off of those queries and tables. Okay, so far I've mentioned three objects, right? Tables, queries, and reports. And then finally, you can create forms for users to quickly enter new records. Okay, I hope that makes some sense there. All right, so the assigned training simulation I've given you should help you get started with Access. There's other materials out there, other resources, including gcflearnfree.org. There's other YouTube tutorials. There's this video. So all of that is available to you. And again, like I said, it's probably going to take you longer to watch this video than it is to actually do the project. So use that pause button. It's always there. Okay, one last thing. Unlike Word, Excel, or PowerPoint, if you make mistakes, there might not be a chance to go back. So be very careful when you're doing this project. All right, let's go ahead and fire up Access. I have my Windows 10 VM here. Enjoy my beautiful desktop background. This is the Seven Sacred Pools on Maui. All right, let's go ahead and fire up Access. And let's open up a blank database. And you'll notice right away you're being asked to save it. Okay, it's not like Word, Excel, or PowerPoint where you can get started right away. You're actually going to have to save this database. And we want to take a look at this handout for specific instructions. This database is going to be called Acme Inventory Last First, where last first is your last name and first name. Okay, so we'll go ahead and do that. Another thing to note, if you're a home user, your path to the documents folder, that's perfectly fine. But if you're doing this on campus and you're saving to a USB flash drive, now would be a good time to put in your flash drive, and then you would click on this folder icon, navigate to your flash drive in the navigation pane over here on the left under this PC, and then you put in the file name. But for home users, this isn't a big deal, right? It's going to be in your documents folder. Just remember where you save it. Okay, Acme Inventory, and today I'm Joe's student. So last name student, first name Joe, but do put your last name, first name, and then click OK. All right, don't worry about this extension. Don't change anything. Again, take one last look at your path. Take a last look here to make sure that you named it correctly, and then we go ahead and create. So this is Microsoft Access. Here's our first object. It's our table. Remember what I said, tables are the heart of your database. So if you're putting a database together, start with the kind of tables you want to include. So if you're a book publisher, that would mean your customers and your book reps, okay? This is what's called a relational database, and again, like I said, you can learn more in COSA 25. So real quick, up here, top left corner, we have the quick access toolbar. We have our document title, or in this case, the title of our database. This is for our Office account. You have your minimize, restore down, maximize, close buttons. This is your ribbon. You have your ribbon tabs, which look a lot like menu items. And within each ribbon tab, you have groups, such as the views group, clipboard group. And these are organized into different commands are organized into groups here. So if you're not sure what a particular command does, hover your mouse over it, and you get what's called a tooltip. Okay. Now, the reason why I'm explaining this to you, because if you were to tell someone how to import an Excel workbook, you don't just tell them, oh, go to external data and click on Excel, because they're going to look at you and go, what do you mean by this? And I know I'm using 2019 here, but if you're in 2016, this import and link group, you would have another Excel command, and then there's this Excel command. You're going, well, wait a minute, which one do I click on? Okay, that's why I'm having you go through this terminology. The ribbon tab, the ribbon group, and then finally the command here. Okay, so with that out of the way, if you notice, this looks a lot like a spreadsheet, right? And as a matter of fact, Microsoft even carried over some of the terminology from Excel, such as row height, even though in Access we don't call them rows, we call them records, right? Or likewise with our columns, right? With our columns, we have our widths. Oh, they fixed it in here. So in 2016, they actually called it column width. So they managed to fix that. So they forgot about the rows, but they fixed the columns here. Now in Access, we call these columns fields, and the fields are going to be things like unique identifier, like an ID number, last name, first name, street, city, state, zip, and so forth. Okay, so you set up your fields first, and then when you start to add your records, okay, that's where the rows come in. So if you have book reps, that's Lionel Hand, that's Jane Doe, and so forth and so forth. Okay, now you can, if you want, start adding fields here in Datasheet View. This is the data types, by the way, but you're going to see it's a whole lot faster in Design View. Okay, so matter of fact, let's go ahead and switch to Design View here. And this is where I have to skip ahead, because right away we're being asked to save our table. Now, anytime you change an object, maybe you change the structure of an object, maybe you add new fields, you rename a field, you do some kind of validation, as you'll see momentarily, or maybe in Datasheet View you resize columns, you do have to save that object. Okay, so be aware of that. All right, so the name of this table is inventory items. There's no spacing, and it's a good idea to avoid using spaces, but as you'll see later on with the reports, I actually violate this best practice. Okay, so here we are in design view, and this is where this table comes in now. So the owners have specified that we include these fields. So we have these field names, we have the data types associated with them, and then there's a couple of parameters we need to pay attention to. So again, it's taking longer to explain all this than it is for you to actually do it. You do have that pause button available to you, so let's move on here. All right, so let's start with item ID. Okay, so the first field here is item ID, and we're going to switch the data type from auto number to short text, and here's why. By default, okay, this is the primary key. Okay, what do I mean by the primary key? Let's say as an LBCC student, you go on campus to whatever service there is. Okay, what's the first thing they ask you for? All right, they ask you for your student ID number. Your student ID number uniquely identifies you. There's no one else who should have your student ID number, at least I hope not. And that's your primary key, right? Your student ID number is your primary key. Now in Access, when you set the primary key as auto number, Access will do the numbering for you for each record. It'll go 1, 2, 3, 4, etc. But if I want to provide my own unique identifier, right, maybe 3 letters and 2 numbers, I need to change this to short text. Okay, so that's what we're doing here. Okay, so let me go ahead, change the data type to short text. And now we're being asked to change the field size. So anytime we're messing with some of the parameters that's in the field properties grid here, so field size, you can see it's 255 characters by default, but we need to change that to 5. Now, why is that? We don't just want someone to come along and enter in whatever they want, right? We're restricting the field size down to only what we need. And again, this is something you should plan for in the beginning, or at least try to. And changing the field size is one form of data validation. Now, there's other kinds of data validation, but again, that's for COSA 25. All right, so 5 characters, a couple other things we need to know here. Again, item ID is our primary key, may contain alphanumeric. The first character must be an uppercase letter. Remember this when you start to work on your records, okay? Again, don't use auto number. That's why we switched to short text. And then finally, we need a description, okay? 5-character inventory ID number, okay? 5-character inventory ID number, okay? Why is this important, all right? If you are the person who created the Access database, okay, other people who come along need to know what to do with your fields, all right? If you were to be hit by a bus, let's hope not, someone who comes along has to try to figure all that out. So by providing a description of what you're supposed to do with the fields, that makes things a whole lot easier on other users. Now, if you have certain ways of doing things, maybe the unique identifier has to be 3 letters and 2 numbers, you would put this in the description, must have 3 letters and 2 numbers. So that's what the description field is there for, okay? If you want to specify certain things or try to explain what the fields are there for. Okay, so with that said, again, I'm taking longer than it takes to actually do this, so let's continue here. Description, the description field, short text 20 characters. All right, description is the name of the field, it's short text, and by the way, you could also type this in too, okay? And I'll show you in a moment. All right, set this to 20 characters. Let's move to the next field. And again, take a moment to quickly double check this grid here. All right, vendor ID, and it's number and long integer. Okay, vendor ID, data type. I can start typing in number. See that? And then I hit enter. And then the field size. Okay, it's long integer. If you want to change this, by the way, you have this drop-down menu available to you. Okay. All right, next up, after vendor ID, we have list price currency, list price, data type is currency. Set the decimal places to 2. You can type in 2, or you can use this drop-down menu here. Okay, we can do that. All right, moving right along. Quantity in stock, but we have to put in QTY in stock. Okay, data type here is number, but let me double check real quick. Okay, number. It's long integer, but we also have to include a caption here. Okay, we're going to type in quantity as our caption. Now, why is this important? You can see that I'm using a special field name internally, but if you want this field name to be human readable, you set a caption for this. Now let me show you what happens here. So I got to save this first. Let me switch to data sheet. Okay, notice that the caption shows up. Okay, this field says quantity. It doesn't say QTY in stock. So we use caption if we want something that's human readable. Okay, I hope that makes some sense there. Okay, so moving right along. Item type, short texts. Okay, so item type, it's short text, and it's 4 characters. Now, I know some of you Access gurus are screaming right now, why don't you use lookups for this? Again, this is just a crash course in Access. I don't want to introduce anything complicated yet. If you want to learn about using lookups, go take COSA 25. There's my plug again. All right. So, a couple things you need to know here. The codes are going to be soft for software, hard for hardware, and then electrical miscellaneous. The default value is miscellaneous. So we need to specify a default value here. Okay, so one more time, let me just check to be sure. Item type, short text, 4 characters. The default value, okay? Default value is miscellaneous. Now, why do we include this default value? Let's say you have a lot of records, right? And most of your records are a certain lookup type, okay? In this case, miscellaneous. So rather than having to type in miscellaneous every time you enter in a record, we leave the default there, especially if you're importing a bunch of records, right? You have a default type, and then you just go in and just change the 1 or 2 things, right? So if everything's miscellaneous, you just go back in, you change the one thing to software, you change that one thing to hardware, and so forth. So I hope this makes some sense. I'm just introducing this as a time saver, okay? Now, one more field, and it's called on sale. Okay, so let me move down here. So we're going to call this on sale, and this is a simple yes, no. Okay, it's a simple yes, no. At this point, I can go ahead and save this table. We are done here. All right, and if you'd like, take a moment to quickly go back, double check all your fields, right, to make sure you have the right parameters in here. Okay, it's very important that your deliverable matches up to what the business owners want. And at this point, we can go ahead and close our table. Again, there's no need to save your Access database. You're just saving individual objects, okay? So now that we've saved our table, okay, we need to create a form based on this table. And the reason for this is because if we have someone coming along and they need to enter records, it's a lot easier just to give them a simple form than it is to have them go into data sheet view where mistakes can be made, right? And remember what I said about Access being unforgiving, okay? So let me show you how to create a form here. All right, so we're going to create a form based on this inventory items table. We select the table first, and in the Create tab, and we go to Forms group. We're just going to click on Form, right? It's a simple form, and you can see right away there's miscellaneous as our default. Right now we are in what's called, layout view. We just switched to form view. That's what the user's going to see. No big deal, okay? And by the way, feel free to play around in Access, okay? This is your chance to really get your hands dirty with this. All right, let's save this form, and they're asking us to call it inventory form. Okay, so we'll just go ahead and do this. Oh, by the way, if you make a mistake like this, right, you messed up the name, you can always go back and rename this, okay? That's not a big deal, okay? Just make sure that you take care of that before you go in and you start messing around with things. All right, so at this point, we have 2 objects now. We have our table and we have our forms. Next up, let's go ahead and enter some records, okay? Again, if you need to hit that pause button, please do so. Let's go ahead, open this up in datasheet view, and by datasheet view, that means double clicking on the table. So there it is. We're ready to enter some records. This is your chance to make things up, get creative. Don't try to do what I'm doing here. Just come up with your own stuff. Let your creativity flow on this one. And like I said, this video is going to take a lot longer because I'm explaining all of this to you. So once you have this all figured out, you should be done with it in no time. As a matter of fact, if you really haven't been watching this video, you're probably halfway done with this project by now. Okay, I'm just gonna use this sample here just to show you how it looks. Okay, so let me type in again. Follow the guidelines that the business owners laid out for you. Okay, so the item ID again. Don't do what I'm doing here. Just come up with your own stuff. Okay, vendor ID, I'm just making stuff up, and I think the price was $39.99. And notice what I'm doing, by the way. I can just type in 39.99, and it will automatically format it for me. Okay, 50 items. Item type is hardware. And notice how I'm moving through the fields. I'm actually using the tab key here. Okay, I'm using the tab key. Is it on sale? And no, it isn't. Okay, and as soon as I hit tab, boom, I've now saved that record. So be careful here, okay? Be careful here because look at undo. There's no undo, okay? So be very careful. All right, let me enter in another one. Again, I'm just making something up. You know what? We're selling old ThinkPads here. Vendor ID, list price. You know, let's say $300, whatever. 4 are in stock. Item type is hardware. And by the way, if you know how to do the lookups, hey, more power to you, okay? You don't have to do that. All right, on sale, why not? And then we keep going, right? So you're going to create at least 10 records, right? You're going to create at least 10 records here. $5. Let's say we got 100 in stock. Item type miscellaneous, why not? Okay, so create at least 10 records. I'm stopping at 3 because again, this video is going on longer than it needs to, but I just want to illustrate how this works. Again, no need to save this table, right? Because the records are saved automatically, which by the way, I want to show you some Excel tips and tricks. If I need to see everything here, because right now, if you notice, this is cut off, I can use the Excel technique of selecting my columns or fields, and then in between the columns, right, I see the double arrows there. I can just double click, auto fit, boom, and guess what? Because I did that, now I got to save my table again. But again, you know, I'm just showing this to you. All right, so we have our records. Follow these guidelines right here, folks. Please make sure to do that. And let's go ahead and create our reports. All right, so we're going to create 2 reports based on the inventory items table using the report wizard. Okay, the report wizard is in the create tab, reports group. We click on report wizard, and because we only have one table, it's already selected. So we're going to include everything but on sale, and here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to select all of my fields and then just get rid of on sale. Okay, when we're ready, click next. There's no grouping. We click next. We're going to sort by item ID descending. Okay, don't forget that. Click next, and then we're going to make this change to landscape. Click next. What do you want to call your report? Okay, so again, carefully read all of this here. All inventory items, okay, and you can see I'm breaking my own rule here. Not a big deal, right? Go ahead and finish, and here it is, right? Here's the report. You see that item ID is sorted descending, all right, and we're done. Now, let's go back in and get rid of a record. Okay, and we can use another Excel technique. We're going to select the entire row here, and I'm going to right click and delete this record. And hey, there's that warning, right? You're about to delete one record. There's no going back. Okay, well, I know I'm doing that. And we'll create another report. All right, create tab, reports group, report wizard. Just like before, I'm going to include everything, get rid of on sale, next, next. Item ID, descending, next, landscape, and we'll call this one item deleted. Okay, 1 item deleted, and we're going to finish this, and now there's 2. But hey, take a look at this. Whoops, where did that 3rd record go? So If you don't want to lose your records, maybe you should print out your reports. You can save them to PDF or export them somewhere else. So just kind of be mindful of that, all right? Okay, so we have our 2 reports. Okay, and we're ready to move on here, folks. All right, let's go ahead and move on. So I'm going to go ahead and close our 2 reports. So now we have 3 categories. There's only one more thing to do, and that's to create a query. Okay, we're going to create a query based on inventory items, and there's 2 ways to do this. Okay, there's 2 ways to do this. We can take the easy way out and use the query wizard, or we can go straight into query design, which will give us a lot more flexibility. Okay, let me show you both ways. Let's start with the query wizard in the create tab queries group, query wizard. Okay, let's start there and we'll do a simple query. Okay, let me show you. So this is based off the inventory items table, and we need to specify the following fields: item ID, okay, description, and then the next one is item type. Okay, so we go down to item type, and then finally quantity in stock. Okay, so notice it's in that order. Okay, we go next, we go next. There's one other thing we have to do, right? We got to modify the query design, but you know what? Hold on, we'll get to this point. But we need to go back and fix this. Okay, how do we go back and fix this? Well, we need to change into design view here. Okay, so this is like running a query, but we got to go into the design view here, and this is what query design looks like. Okay, this is our design grid down here, and the reason why I'm showing you this is because we were asked to sort the records descending by item ID. Okay, so we come down here, we have a row for sort. We're under the item ID field in the grid, and we're going to sort descending. Okay, let me make sure here. Sort the records descending. Now we can run the query. Okay, you see that it's you can see that it is descending here. Okay, we can go back into the design grid and make our adjustments. All right, so that's one way to do this. I'm not going to save this query because I want to show you how to go directly into query design. So at this point, you would save your query as directed, but I want to show you how to do this with query design. All right, so let's go to query design here in the create tab queries group. Okay, query design. This is our only table, so we're going to choose add. Okay, now we can close this. And what I'm going to do is actually expand this window so I see all of my fields here. And then in the grid, we're going to select each of the following fields. Okay, so we're going to include item ID, and I double click, right? Double click item ID, there it is. It's in the first field there. Then description, right? Item type. Okay, so item ID, description, item type, and quantity in stock. Okay, so there it is in the grid, and then we sort descending for item ID. We run this query, and there you go. Okay. So notice again, we have this caption here. Okay, we don't see QTY in stock. And so this is how you can run a query, folks. Let's go ahead and save this query. And we're going to call it all descending. Okay, all descending. All right, so we're done with this query. And anytime we open up this query, we're essentially running it. Again, you can always go back in the design view and fix it. All right, so at this point, we're pretty much finished. Let me go ahead and get rid of the other query. We don't need it. All right, so here we go. And there's one more thing we need to do, folks. We need to compact and repair. Now, the reason for this is because over time, as you're maintaining your database, you're adding things, you're changing things, you're deleting things, your database is going to grow. And the only way to reclaim that space is to run compact and repair. Now, another reason to run compact and repair is because there's also the possibility of bad things happening to your database. So it's important to always keep a backup of your database whenever you can. Let's not worry about that part in this class. That's what COSA 25 is for, folks. So let's go ahead and do that compact and repair and turn it in. Okay, so let's compact and repair, and we do this by going into Backstage View in the File tab, and under Info, we have compact and repair. Okay, now if this doesn't work, by the way, if this doesn't work, you just close out of Access, And then again, you go back to your database. In this case, it's in my documents folder. Here it is. Go ahead, open it up in Access. And then we try to do it again, right? We go into Backstage View. We run Compact and Repair. Whoops, go to Info. Compact and Repair. There it is. Done. And then we can go ahead and turn it into Canvas. Okay, so you're going to turn this into Canvas, right? You're going to turn it into Canvas, and you should see a big red Submit Assignment button up here. Okay, I'm in God mode right now, so that's why you don't see it. Let me show it to you here. Okay, let me back up and go into God mode, or get out of God mode for a second. Again, it's probably gonna take you longer to watch this video than it is to actually do the assignment. Okay, because I'm explaining all of this to you. All right, so here we go. Let's head on down to our module. All the way down. Here we go. Access Inventory Project. All right, so here's what I was talking about earlier. Submit assignment. Okay, you have your big Submit Assignment button. Choose File. Let's go find that Access database. But hey, you know what? My Access database is somewhere else right now. You know what? Let me do this real quick for you guys. All right, so the wonders of technology. All right, let me go drop this into my shared folder. All right, see if it's in my shared folder. There it is, and come on back. Choose File. Let me go get my shared folder. There it is. Turn this in. See, there it is. Submit assignment, and just like that, boom. Yay, I get confetti, the heavens have opened up, and all that other good stuff. So I hope this video has helped you out. Again, as I've been saying, you're probably long since done with that project by now. Go through the sim book so you understand what's going on. You have this video. You have the other tutorials out there. You've got gcflearnfree.org if you need it. You have the open collab forum to ask each other. Okay, make sure you do that. Good luck on this project. Don't sweat it. Have fun with it. Make sure you go through all of the things that's outlined in the rubric here. Okay, so these are the things I'm looking for in this rubric. It's an easy 25-point assignment. Good luck, folks, and thanks for watching. Take care of yourselves out there.